The Center for Audit Quality presents Profession in Focus.
Hello, I'm Cindy Fernelli, the Executive Director of the Center for Audit Quality, and welcome to this edition of Profession in Focus. I'm very pleased today to be joined by Gilly Lord, all the way from London. And Gilly is with us. She's the practicing audit partner, or a practicing audit partner, and PwC's UK Head of Audit Strategy and Transformation. She also sits on PwC's Assurance Executive Board. Gilly, welcome to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to start with the things that you're seeing around innovation and transformation. Not a week goes by, it seems, that we don't see an article about how artificial intelligence, data analytics, and other technology advances are going to transform the way audits are performed. And there are even those who predict that there won't be a need for humans in the audit in the next 5, 10, 25 years. So tell us about that transformation, about technology, and what you see the role for humans are in the audit in the coming years.
Okay, so like you, I am seeing headlines all the time that say, auditors are, we're seeing the end of auditors. Everything is going to be automated. And I think actually that's very lazy thinking. So when I look at it, I can see a big piece of what we do at the moment, which is the standard, routine, actually quite low value work that forms a part of the audit. And I think that will be automated, and probably automated quite quickly. But then there's a very important part of what we do, which is much more subjective, much more judgmental, and really relies on the uniquely human characteristics of human auditors. So what I think the audit of the future is going to become is a very exciting collaboration between humans and machines. And by putting them together, we'll be able to do much better quality audits.
As I think about what you just said and some of the things that I've read, it occurs to me that perhaps we will still need the same number of people, but maybe we might need a different combination of skill sets. Yeah. So what advice would you give a person going into college or university? What kind of skills should he or she focus on in order to meet the change in the audit?
Right. So I think I'd give two pieces of advice. Firstly, I think we've got to think about technology. And even now, I think for all auditors, you've got to have a really good baseline technological literacy. And you need that to cope with all of this crazy change that's coming at us from all directions. So that's essential. We will need some people who've got really deep expertise in technology. So the kinds of technologies that I'm really excited about at the moment are machine learning, robotic process automation, natural language processing and generation. So I think we'll need people with deep knowledge and experience in those particular areas. I think, though, we'll also need people with some deep expertise in some very different areas. So when we get to much bigger levels of automation, I think then we'll look at what humans bring and say, well, maybe we need people who are much more expert in psychology, in behaviors, maybe in culture. So actually, I think for people looking for a career in public accounting and auditing in the future, they've actually got a choice. They could go down the technology route. They could actually go down that much more sort of behavioral, cultural route. And I think both of those skill sets are going to be very important.
Which that'll be exciting for a person. It should broaden the profession to new types of people who might not have considered auditing or accounting as a career.
Yeah.
Which is something I know you and I have spoken about, the importance of getting that story out there so people can think about it as an exciting, vibrant career.
That's absolutely essential. And we should feel very proud of the opportunities and careers we're going to be able to offer people.
That's great. I look forward to seeing how that all plays out. I am going to switch gears on you, though, given that I have you here all the way from the UK, where you all have implemented some new standards and new reporting for auditors and audit committees that we have just now adopted here in the United States. So I would be remiss if I didn't take the time to explore that a little bit with you. Let's start with the auditor's reporting model. So that hasn't yet gone into effect here in the United States, although it has been approved. But you all in the UK and Europe have been living with that for a couple of years, and I think to good effect.
Yeah.
I hear from European investors that they like it. So tell us about the experiences, and for those auditors in the U.S. and investors in the U.S., what are the experiences and what should we know as we go into this new auditor's reporting model?
Okay, so this is very close to my heart. So we implemented in the UK ISO 700, which is our version, in 2013. So we've got a few years' experience under our belt now. Now, the evolution has been really interesting. So when we got these new rules, the profession in the UK felt really quite nervous about this idea that we were going to put into the public domain something that we'd never shared before, you know, a vision, an insight into the internal workings of our audits. Year one, we were pretty cautious and relatively conservative in approach. And we went to investors and asked for feedback. And the feedback we got after year one from the investment community was great. We love the new model. We're very interested, but we want more. And year two and beyond has actually been really exciting. And we're now seeing audit reports that the investment community are actively reading and getting some real value from. So it's been a really positive experience.
Another thing that's different, I think, in the UK model is that at the same time that the auditor's report was expanded, so was the audit committee reporting. And we don't have that comparable difference now, although we at the CAQ have seen really promising increases in audit committees disclosing their important oversight work that they do. But have you seen better transparency from the audit committee side as you've seen from the audit side, and do investors feel that as well?
So yes, I have. So at the same time as we adopted ISO 700, we also got some changes to the corporate governance requirements in the UK, which asked audit committees to talk about the significant issues they'd considered as they looked at the financial statements. And the FRC, our regulator in the UK, did that quite deliberately because they wanted to create a sort of coherent picture of the different pieces of oversight that had been exercised over the key judgments in the financial statements. So definitely we've seen more transparency than from audit committees. I think it's fair to say audit committees have probably been a little more cautious than the auditing profession. So I personally would say there's still some way to go to sort of match the levels of transparency which you're now seeing in the auditor's report with the levels of specificity and precision that you see in audit committee reporting. But it's definitely been an improving process. We've also seen some interesting examples where the subjects that the audit committee have been talking about have actually been different from the key audit matters covered in the auditor's report. Now, that's not necessarily wrong, but it does give rise to some interesting questions. And that's always something that when I talk to audit committees and I talk to audit partners, I encourage them to think about, because people are going to sort of do the read across between the two different pieces of reporting.
And then, of course, you've got the company's perspective
as
well, which could be yet a third point of view.
Yeah.
But I think the whole goal of all of this is to create that conversation and that working through the issues from each different perspective and then giving a report out to investors. So one final question, again, while I have you here. Certainly the rules regarding audit firm tenure have changed in both in the UK and the European Union throughout. And that was something that was talked about a lot here, but we did not go to mandatory firm rotation. Of course, we have the 5-year auditor rotation, but not the firm rotation. What have you been seeing in the couple of years? I guess you're gearing up to some of those mandatory retendering and mandatory changes. Has that settled out? Is there still some concern in the system, and have people been rethinking that even though there's not really a mechanism to rethink it?
Well, it was a huge change for us. So this was a really, really big moment for the UK and the European audit profession. We've had a couple of years, particularly in the UK, of really, really intense market activity. And to give you a picture of this, when I look back before rotation was introduced, it might have been that perhaps once in 10 years, you might have seen a tender for a FTSE 100 large audit. And then suddenly we're in a situation where maybe you're seeing 10 or 12 in a single year. So the degree of change was huge. There's been a lot of interesting speculation in the UK as to whether post-Brexit the regime might change. I think that is very, very unlikely. And I'm pretty sure that the FRC and the UK government will not seek to reopen it. So a huge change, a big shock for us. There have been some good outcomes. So one of the things I've found is that obviously because we now do audit tenders all the time, we've had to get really good at articulating the real value of our audit, because of course that's a big part of the tender. And what I found, and I found it personally, and I know my colleagues are the same, is that when you're forced to do that, it actually helps you think about how proud you are of what you do. So that's a slightly unexpected good outcome. We've also seen from the audit committee side a much greater focus on the importance of audit quality and on the importance of audit innovation. So I never thought I'd be in a position where audit committees would be saying, Gilly, we really want you to come and see us, demonstrate the latest technology you've got, because we are so interested in it. So it's not been all difficult and challenging. There have been some good outcomes from the regime change as well.
Quick add-on question before I let you go. Have you seen an effect on audit fees due to the retendering?
We've looked at this really closely. So far, they've remained pretty steady in the UK environment.
Julie, thank you so much for coming all the way from the UK.
Thank you for the invitation.
I really enjoyed speaking with you.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all of you for joining this edition of Profession in Focus. See you next time.